Hi, welcome to the Feature Spotlight webinar for May 2026. I'm Dale Franks. Thanks for joining me today. And let's get right into it, shall we? So we have three things to talk about this week or this month, and it's kind of the same three things that we talked about last month in terms of what we're doing. We're going to talk about version 6.2.100 and some new features and some UI changes that are coming there, as well as a function change that I think a lot of people are going to like. There are some other enhancements, not quite as upfront as the three that we'll talk about in a minute, but we've got several others that we need to discuss, and then we'll talk about some bug fixes that we've addressed over the last month. So for new 6.2.100 features, first, there is a new data source type. It is the AI data source type. What this will enable you to do is to connect directly to whatever large language model AI service that you have decided to work with, whether it is Gemini or OpenAI or Claude. The AI data source type is a fairly simple one, and I've saved this, and therefore it's blank here because I didn't add any connection parameters. Let me just create it again. So we'll just create a data source. Where is it? Right there, data source, and we'll just call this webinar. And we'll hit OK. We'll go to our data source type, and we will just choose AI as the data source type. Now, there's really only one big property to fill in here, and this is the connection parameters property. This will be the connection that you need to make to your AI service. Now, the big question, of course, arises is, all right, let's say I have this data source, and it is a data source that allows me to connect to ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude or what have you. Now what? Well, one of the things that we have done internally is we have created some REST services that actually take data that we can send from Process Director via a REST service. So you can set it up through a REST business value, and you can add in, any headers that you need to pass data back and forth. And you can pass stuff to your AI, and then the AI will return the appropriate JSON REST response for you for whatever conversation you're having with the AI system. So whenever you go into any sort of business value, especially like a REST business value, you have to set the appropriate data source for it, right? So if we were to go in and just create a business value real quick, and we'll just give it a fake name, and we'll go into our business value, what enables it to work is our ability to choose the data source for it, and our ability to, in this case, choose this webinar data source. Oh, wait, nope, that is the wrong data source. But all right, fine. I'd have to go ahead and look for it to find that data source. But in any event, you can select your data source right here on your, well, it's a SQL data source. We'd actually have a REST data source. And you can choose your compliance data source for that data source to make the connection to it. So there's my AI data source right there, and we can just choose that as our compliance data source that will pass all the connection information that we need to pass to the AI service. And of course, if there was any specific data that we needed to pass, we could pass that through as many HTTP headers as we need, or conceivably in your REST URL as URL parameters, however it was that you decided that you needed to do that. But in any event, that's the purpose of the AI data source. It gives you a way to connect to your AI service and then receive whatever data back from that service that you want based on whatever prompt it is that you pass the service. The next one is something that people have been asking for, and that is the ability to put friendly names on knowledge view filters. So to provide, friendly text rather than the default system variable names. So once again, if we go back into our system here and we take a look at this knowledge view, which I've called KView friendly name, where the magic happens is here in the filter. Now, this property, friendly name, will appear as part of the filter, and it will appear for filters that require a friendly name, that either A, like in the case of a form field, if you have a friendly name set for that form field, you don't have to worry about it. The friendly name is set at the control level, and so that friendly name will automatically display in Process Director, and you don't need this friendly name property here. But if you pick something like I've done here, I've picked running activity name, and I just want it to contain nothing, and we'll just let the user provide a value. When I clicked the prompt user when run checkbox, then the friendly name property will appear. So it's not going to appear until you prompt the user when run. If you're not going to prompt the user, you don't really need a friendly name, so therefore it won't provide it. And like I said earlier, if you have a field that already has a friendly name, so for example, if we were to go to form and form field, I didn't pick a form definition for this. So let's go with this results form, whatever that is. Okay, we have now this is an array field, but I think it'll be fine. We'll use this array field, this city array field. And note, I don't have a friendly name property for this. Don't really need it because my field is already named city, and that's the friendly name of this field. So I'm good. But whenever you have something like I have up above, where I'm using the running activity name, if I use something like that, which is one of the default system variables, and some of the default system variables, the names are not perfectly comprehensible for end users. So instead of using running activity name, I've just given it a friendly name of current activities name. And so then I can update and run, and there we go. Now the current activities name contains whatever I want. And then I can do a search here. Since all of my activities are running activity one, it's not going to be a very helpful search because, well, I only have one value. They're all activity one. However, I do have the ability to do that KView friendly name, which people have asked for. And of course, if you don't put anything there, if you just leave that value blank, that's fine. Everything will still work. But what will happen is whenever you run the knowledge view, what your end user will see are the default name that we have given, which in this case is running activity name. So it says running activity name up here, but of course my column is named current activity. So that's why I named it current activity name, so that you can match what is in the knowledge view with what you have called your column. That makes things a little more understandable and comprehensible for your users. So I'm sure that this is going to be a feature that a lot of you will like. Here's something else a lot of you will like: the mass timeline instance refresh. So we have for a relatively long time gotten a complaint that whenever I am running a bunch of timeline instances, and for some reason they all go wonky. I've put in a condition that was improperly configured. I've thrown all of my timelines into error. And our response has been for a long time, well, then you're going to have to go into each one of those timelines, and you're going to have to open up the timeline instance, and you're going to have to go to the, timeline/administration tab. And when you click on that tab, it automatically does a refresh. And when it does a refresh, it usually will, clear that error. Your condition now exists. It evaluates properly, and the timeline can just go ahead and run. Which is fine if you have to do that once or twice. When you have to do it 100 or 200 times, that gets super tedious. So what we've decided to do, and I've got to look for this particular timeline because I know I have a bunch of them. I've got all of these active timelines running. And so if I go in and I click one of these timelines and check them, I have a new button. It is called Refresh Timeline. And I can, in fact, click all of them and then click Refresh Timeline, and I can refresh all of those timelines all at the same time. It asks me, are you sure you want to refresh the selected timeline instances? Why, yes, yes, I do. So there you go. 7 of 7 timeline instances refreshed, 0 skipped. So we are good to go. Our timelines have now all been refreshed and they are all running as expected. That, I think, is going to be a very popular enhancement because so many people have wanted it and have wanted us to be able to implement that. We have now done so, and that will be available in 6.2.100. But those are not the only things we have done. Two big issues have arisen over the past couple of months, and that has been with the relatively large number of changes that Microsoft has made on the Azure/Entra side. And we've had to keep up with those. So there have been some SMTP OAuth changes that change the way things work. There's actually another thing in here that is listed as a bug. We'll talk about it later, but they have messed up the file sizes for SharePoint. I say messed up. From my perspective, Microsoft has messed it up. We'll talk about that in a minute, and we had to address that. And the other thing that they have done is they've really started to push people even away from Microsoft Modern Authentication, at least its first iteration, for email, and they're pushing everybody into Microsoft Graph API. So the SMTP OAuth updates are for other issues for getting into Azure and Entra and their authentication requirements. So we've had to change those, but over and above that, we've had to include support for the Microsoft Graph API. So here's what we have done. If we go into installation settings and we go to the SMTP section of the installation settings pane, whenever it consents to open for us. So we've added SMTP authentication type a while ago because we had to support Microsoft's version of OAuth, and we also had to support Google OAuth because we do have customers that use the Google platform rather than the Microsoft platform. We've now added the Microsoft Graph API. Now, the Microsoft Graph API uses a different credentials flow, and I think the last two words of its names are credentials flow, but I don't remember the first one. But it is a new way of doing credentials, and it is a little bit different. You do not log in as a user at all. You log in as an application. So if we switch back over here to, like, say, Microsoft OAuth, you might have the SMTP user ID and the SMTP password if you want to log in into a specific mailbox and use that specific mailbox. And that's fine for the regular Microsoft Modern Authentication. Similarly with Google, same kind of thing, although Google is a little bit different because you have to send them this JSON and then this user ID. However, the Graph API is different. It doesn't work that way. The Microsoft Graph API only wants your application credentials. So that just means your tenant ID, your client ID, and your secret. So it's not a direct login to a mailbox. But this is how we send emails outside of Process Director, and we can use the Microsoft Graph API to do that. Now, of course, that also brings up the question, all right, I can send emails. What if I want to check out emails and import them into Process Director and what have you? Well, that's where BP email import comes in. And I am really trying to get to it so that I can open up BP email import.exe. There it is. And so on your server protocol, so first thing, when we go to the connection tab, up until now, our two server protocols have been POP3 and IMAP, and IMAP has been the standard email server protocol. POP3 is kind of the old 90s version of email. But now there is the Microsoft Graph API. So we now have the Microsoft 365 Graph API as a server protocol type. So we can set that there. And then on the OAuth tab, once we have set Microsoft 365 Graph as the server protocol on the connection tab, the OAuth tab will automatically select Microsoft Graph. And then once again, you'll put in your tenant, your client ID, and your client secret. That should probably say tenant ID instead of just tenant, but in any event, this supports the Microsoft Graph API. So for both transmitting emails out of the system, you have the ability to use the Microsoft Graph API as the SMTP authentication type. And then for BP email import to go in and grab those emails and return them to Process Director, for example, to import them to parse emails for task completion, for offline task completion, or whatever. You now have the BP email import application that enables you to use the Microsoft Graph API to grab those emails back from Microsoft. So we have both sides, both the sending and the receiving side covered for you in terms of the Microsoft Graph API. There may be further changes as Microsoft figures out whatever changes they need in Azure and Intra to make whatever it is they're doing work. We're, kind of at their mercy. They make changes, and then we have to respond to make the changes to ensure that we can still connect to them and that your service through Microsoft remains seamless. Speaking of Microsoft, Microsoft changed the way that Office documents, and they're not even Office documents anymore. They're they're Microsoft 365 documents. I don't understand that branding, but whatever. Microsoft Office, we all know what that is: Word, PowerPoint, Excel. Microsoft Office files are actually all just zip files. They're zip files that contain a bunch of XML. That's all like a Word document or a PowerPoint presentation is. It's a zip file that has a bunch of XML files. In fact, you can take any Office document, DocX, PPTX, and you can change the file extension, PPTX for PowerPoint. You can just change that to zip, and then you can just extract all of the XML files that are inside the Word document or PowerPoint presentation, because that's all it is, just a bunch of XML text files. Well, those are some pretty sophisticated XML text files, and they contain a lot of specific tags and specific commands in XML. Microsoft has changed several of them, and so we're seeing a lot of PDF conversions fail, especially on systems that are using older versions of Process Director. Because the conversion library that is used in older versions of Process Director is no longer valid because Microsoft has changed the XML schema, and not even a huge change, but they have changed it enough so that the old PDF conversion library that shipped with the earlier versions of Process Director, I think that was Aspazay version 20, it does not recognize some of these new tags that Microsoft has put in. So we have updated that conversion library. We actually updated it a couple of versions ago, sort of as one of those background things that we never talk much about because it's just a library that we use to do PDF conversions, but it has been updated. It is now running version 25 in the product. It has been since 6.1. I think it was either 501 or one of the later threes. I don't remember exactly when. However, if you're having trouble with the PDF conversions and you're getting this, it's usually something like there was an XML tag that could not be parsed, something like that in your logs. That means that you're running a version that has the older library. You're going to need to upgrade to the new PDF conversion library so that it understands what those new tags are that Microsoft has added to Word documents and thus be able to properly convert to PDF. The workspace nav buttons at links. Let's take a look at this one first because we don't actually have to look at anything. You won't see any change in the UI. It looks exactly the way that it's supposed to look, but we have changed how the workspace navigation buttons behave. You can right click on them or control click on them. They now behave as links. So whenever you're looking at them, up here, they don't look any different, but we have changed the behavior so that, if you control click, you don't see what happened, but when I hit control click on DFA, it opened up the data flow analyzer for me in a new tab in my browser because I control clicked it. So it does whatever the standard link behavior is whenever you click it. Now, this other one is for the Apruvia AI control. I know most of you don't have the Apruvia AI control yet, and we are kind of making some changes to the Apruvia AI control, but this is something I wanted to show you. If we go to, I made a copy of it, so let's use my copy of it. So let me just kind of show you how the Apruvia AI control works just right out of the box, and then I'll show you the change that we made or the feature addition that we made to it. Before I do that, I need to actually look at the control and be sure that I removed my changes. I did remove my changes. So let's go back and just run the webinar form here. And I'm going to upload a document. And it's a fake medical study that I had ChatGPT build for me. And so we'll go to doc, and it's a fictional medicine called credozepam. And I'm going to upload that document. Now I'm going to open Apruvia AI, and I have it already maximized here. And it's in summarize mode already, and here's my document. It's already selected. So I'm just going to summarize the document. And we'll wait a few seconds and it will retrieve some information. It has a built-in prompt that tells it how to do a document summary. So it takes my credozepam PDF document and then it will create a summary for me. And I have the option of creating it in Word or in PDF. And it is still retrieving some information. There we go. Now it is creating my summary. And so there we go. Plain language summary of the credozepam study. Now I am going to click the summary, and this is the summary that it created for me. This is the standard way that summaries are created with the Apruvia AI control. So it's a normal summarization. What we have done, we've decided to allow you to customize it. So let's go back into my webinar form and let's go back to my Apruvia AI control. And there is a new tab. It is called the Context tab. And I can either append instructions to the existing system prompt, or I can completely replace the instructions. For example, when creating a document summary, and I still misspelled it. When creating a document summary, Ensure the summary includes only brief bullet points. Ensure there are no more than 10 bullet points created. Okay, now I am going to have to read this because typing while standing is not my strong suit. So when creating a document summary, ensure the summary includes only brief bullet points. Ensure there are no more than 10 bullet points created. This is a different prompt than the one that I gave it whenever I prepped, but I'm pretty confident this will work. I'm going to replace the summarization function. I'm going to replace that default prompt with my prompt right here. And I'm going to save and close my form. And then we're going to rerun it. And then we're going to pull up the credozepam document and we're going to see what it does with it. So we'll run it again. And once again, I will update or upload my fake study for my fake drug. Now I'll open Approvia AI. Again, we're in summarize mode, and I'm just going to have it summarize. And now it's processing my request, retrieving some information, creating the summary, and that is my new summary of the credozepam document. So we saw that one relatively, I mean, it was a summary, but it's still a relatively lengthy summary. Well, I told it only short bullet points, no more than 10. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it gave me 8 bullet points because I changed the way that I wanted Approvia AI to work by giving it that additional context. So it's kind of a cool deal to be able to either use the default as we saw earlier, or to be able to customize it to produce output that you want with that Approvia AI control. All right, that's all for all of the enhancements, which really took up the lion's share of today's presentation. We'll quickly go over some of the bug fixes that we added. There's only 11 here. There were a couple of more than that, but I think the important ones were the SharePoint OAuth data source, failing to save changes, and the push files to SharePoint failing for large files. It failed because Microsoft made it fail. Azure has added a 2 megabyte file limit to the system unless you add in some special sauce. So they've just defaulted the maximum file size to 2 megabytes. And of course, for a PowerPoint or even a Word document, going past 2 megabytes is nothing nowadays. So both of these are listed as bug fixes, but I think both of these were responses to changes that Microsoft has been making to Azure and Entra, which frankly is inconvenient for all of us that use it. Spell check wasn't working on input controls, and also it wasn't displaying the correct spell check HTML property at runtime. So now it does. The ongoing thing on some systems with the communications error banners displaying unexpectedly. We've taken another whack at that. Some visual issues, such as icons not appearing in the content list. Also, icons weren't appearing on workflow definitions, although, please don't use workflow. But there are just some display issues and CSS issues we fixed. The import user CT, for some reason, when you were drawing in a custom string property, I say for some reason, I know the reason. When you had a custom string property for a user, but that property consisted of numbers, the automatic I'm going to help you import stuff for SQL Server was, oh, these must be numbers. You silly, silly person. Why are you telling me they're text? They're all numbers. So I'm going to import them as numbers. Oh, these numbers also have leading zeros. Well, of course, numbers don't have leading zeros. So we're just going to strip those out. So now we're making it very clear that these are strings. Please do not help me. Do what I tell you to do. Don't be helpful. Import the data as is, as strings. A weird little database deal for upgrading from version 5.x to 6.1, where the upgrade would fail. We fixed that. There were some various Oracle-related issues. Also, timelines. Whenever you would roll back a timeline to a previous activity, sometimes the timeline would not roll back. It would, in fact, just complete itself when you didn't want to. So we've addressed that. And then finally, accessibility improvements. As you may know, at the end of last month, there was a federal deadline in the United States for the Department of Justice to begin going after organizations, governmental organizations, public organizations that had more than 50,000 users to be fully ADA compliant. So level AA, level AA WCAG accessibility compliant as specified in the Americans with Disabilities Act. So we've been doing a lot of accessibility improvements. Now, as it turns out, the Monday, 2 days before the deadline was supposed to strike, the Department of Justice extended the deadline for another year. So now that deadline is April 27th, I believe, 2027. So we have another year. So if you do find any accessibility issues, like a control that is not displaying the correct ARIA attributes or any of the required HTML attributes, and you're running something like Wave in your browser, which is an accessibility checker, and you run into those, please submit a support ticket so that next year, when the deadline arrives, we're not all scrambling trying to find accessibility issues. We're going to be relatively confident in the extra year of grace that we've been given that we can fix those accessibility issues prior to the upcoming federal deadline. And with that, we are done for the day. So I thank you for joining me. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. It doesn't look like anybody has asked any questions, so I guess we're done. Have a great month. I'll talk to you all next month. For those of you who attend the training webinar, I'll talk to you on Thursday. Have a great month. We'll talk to you next time. So long.